forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when future videos are out. And the topic of this video is, what if Gene Colan had been the artist to replace Steve Ditko on The Amazing Spider-Man and not John Romita Sr.? And this is how I figure it out. When you look at Daredevil Omnibus and you're reading through it, and in interviews, John Romita Sr. had mentioned, like, Daredevil is his favorite hero. He really enjoyed his run on the book. And then Stan asked him to replace Steve Ditko, who had left. And then so John Romita took over the Spider-Man book. And he thought he was just going to do it temporarily and then go back to Daredevil. And Gene Colan had replaced him, Romita, on Daredevil, and then the Gene Colan run had become legendary for his art style, his formatting, and what he brings to the table. And John Romita Sr. had stuck with The Amazing Spider-Man, and then he made that run what it is. You know, he had made the interpretation of Spider-Man that really had become famous for many decades. So my thoughts are, since Gene, before being on Daredevil, was just moved around in books, and John Romita was moved around in books, what if Stan had made the decision instead to keep John Romita on Daredevil? How would that have played out? And to put Gene Colan as the Amazing Spider-Man artist to replace Steve Ditko. How would that have turned out? I think the interpretation of Spider-Man would be quite different today, or at least for many decades, had Gene been the artist in Spider-Man. Because if you look at his Daredevil run and his Tomb of Dracula, his Doctor Strange, anything he did, he has a unique art style that many others really can't copy. His composition, the black and white, the detailing of it. And John Romita, his art style and what he brought to The Amazing Spider-Man is very different than what Gene brings to the table. You know, if you compare the Amazing Spider-Man run to the Daredevil run, these are two different artists. Don't forget, it was Romita who visualized Mary Jane. Was it Richard and Mary Parker, the Kingpin, the Rhino, the Shocker? So had Gene been on Spider-Man, you'd have a different Mary Jane, a different Kingpin, a different Shocker, Rhino, Richard and Mary Parker, because the artists made the visuals and Stan basically just okayed it. He didn't really give direction. So some interpretation of some famous Spider-Man characters would be completely different. And also, with John Romita on Daredevil, he would have just changed the direction of the book than what Gene was bringing to the book. It would have been two different, completely different runs, and Spider-Man, for his visual identity and what happened story-wise for quite a few decades, his interpretation would have been completely different had Gene been on the Amazing Spider-Man run, and had John Romita Sr. stayed on the Daredevil run. That book would have been different. And so that one decision to remove Romita from Daredevil, which he was already on, and put him on Spider-Man, could have been completely different comic book history had Gene been put on Spider-Man and John Romita had been kept on Daredevil. So, you know, it was that one thing that could have changed both books and both characters historically at a key moment in the 1960s. So that's my thoughts on it. You know, Spider-Man history would have potentially been changed into something different. Maybe better? I don't know. It's hard to think, you know, could John Romita have been topped on what he did at the book? But I think it would have been just as successful had Gene been on the book. Maybe even more successful. I don't know. Because he brings a completely different style to it. So that's my thoughts on it. So let me know what you think. Do you like this idea? Topics like this, comic book history could have been changed. And so don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when future videos are out. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, my friends, and I will talk to you later.